product, but that, when we look at the amount of jobs in the industry, that is a pretty small part of it. There are a tremendous amount of opportunities for employment in any traditional business position. Cannabis industries are going to need human resources people. They're going to need payroll, they're going to need accounts receiving, they're going to need auditing, they're going to need quality assurance, they're going to need compliance officers, chief financial officers, they're going to need interns, they're going to need medical specialists. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And what the great thing about the cannabis industry is through the Commercial Craft Cannabis Act, which is something that I hold dear to my heart because I see it as an opportunity for entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurs are the spring that is the economic driver. It's where people can get into the industry and like Simone said, it's to be an entrepreneur is you gotta be a little like some punishment.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Craziest thing I ever came up with.
Yeah. The best way to cultivate an entrepreneur is to give them direct on-the-job training. And the only way to do that is by having access to working in the industry. So one of the things that the Commercial Craft Cannabis Act is addressing is the expungement of people's criminal records pertaining to cannabis charges. There's a tremendous amount of people that have got criminal charges for nothing, and it is completely inhibiting their lives. It's preventing them from getting jobs. It's preventing them from getting grants or scholarships to continue their education. It can prevent them from getting housing. It has such an undue burden on people. And so what I'm excited about is the expungement part of the Commercial Craft Cannabis Act, and that's opening up people that probably have experience in the cannabis industry and giving them the opportunity to come and work in the industry that they have experience in. I think that's awesome. So back to career development. In my view, the greatest opportunity is getting people in the door in any capacity in the cannabis industry and then letting them gain the experience and learn how to run a business or learn how to become more specialized and climb the ladder of experience. And then if they decide that they want to take that jump into entrepreneurship, now they have the skills and the experience from these existing businesses to go and become entrepreneurs themselves. That's very exciting, and that's one of the primary focuses of the Commercial Craft Cannabis Act is creating that opportunity for the people like us that have experience in the industry to own businesses, to bring people in where we can have more one-on-one time in career development. You know, when we look at some of the more commercialized facilities where thousands of plants are being cultivated, as Eric said, that's the Walmartization of cultivation. And the superior skill sets that are required to run a profitable, sustainable business, they're not really developed there. It's more of just come here, shut up, do your job, and then get out of here, you're replaceable. We want to take the position in cannabis of a skilled trade or a craft industry. This is translatable skills that can be developed, and the longer that someone's a plumber, the better plumber they'll be. The longer someone's an electrician, the better electrician. Same with any skill. So we really want to develop the pathway for skill development. And what we've seen on average is the starting wage in the cannabis industry is 2 times higher than the minimum wage. And what we see is that companies there are good companies and there are bad companies, certainly. But the companies that really get it, they offer incentives to their employees, whether it's profit sharing or equity, or it's having flex time to allow their employees to go take their kids to the dentist, or to pursue some passions or some hobbies or continued education. And the reason that they're doing that is because people that have experience in the cannabis industry are incredibly valuable. There was an article from a headhunter in Colorado about a year ago, and he said the best way to get talent in the cannabis industry is to steal it from your competitors. Which is alarming, because if I'm a cannabis business owner and I have a great employee, I want to keep them, because anybody who's been in business knows that when you've got an ace in their place and someone that knows what they're doing, the most disruptive thing is to take them away, which is a great opportunity for employees because the employees have a lot of power. Once an employee has attained a skill set, then the employer will do almost anything to keep them. So it's an opportunity for greater wages or more robust benefits, but it's also skills that if life takes someone from Michigan to Nevada, then those skills directly translate. So I could go on and on and on about this. It's something that
And we're gonna let you go back.
yeah, it's very exciting, and there's opportunities in the cannabis industry for everybody. And the greatest leveler on the playing field that we have, and what I would encourage all of you to do, is to tell your friends and colleagues and family to support the Commercial Craft Cannabis Act, because it's leveling the playing field for the little guys, and it's creating the opportunity for those who are adversely affected by cannabis criminal penalties to wipe the slate clean and get back into the workforce and participate in society in a greater way. So thanks for coming out, I appreciate it, and I'll turn it back over to Simone.
Okay, well, awesome, and everything that they're saying is totally spot on. Tennille, one of my sisters in cannabis, when I first came back, Tennille was already operating and really advocating in the cannabis sector, right? And so when I first came back, Tennille and I would go to these different events. And what was it, me and you?
Just me and you.
That's it. First time, and I knew we were following each other on Facebook. And when we first saw each other, we gave each other this hug, because it was just me and her. You know what I'm saying? It was just me and her sticking it out. And this is one of the things that I try to stress so much. It is a major segregation that is going on in the cannabis market, right? And it's for a couple of different reasons. I think a lot of it is the white privilege and the black stigma that's behind it, right? As I say all the time, when African Americans and Hispanics were growing weed, we were drug dealers. Now you go and you pay $90 for a card and you're a caregiver. That's white privilege. You know what I mean? You just get a whole new title. In addition to that, we definitely know that we put a stigma behind it because of what we don't know, right? Our morals and a host of other things. One of the things that I try to tell people is that the war on drugs was never because marijuana was bad, right? One, they didn't have anything to attack after Prohibition. The first thing is that even after Reconstruction, hemp was way better product than cotton, and it was going to disturb everything. And then last but not least, Nixon decided that he was going to get rid of the two groups that had ticked him off. That was the hippies and the Panthers. And so that's what this is has always been about. So whatever we think about prior to, we have to change the narrative. In addition to that, guess what? It's here now. So we have to be able to have a different conversation. So what I want to talk about now, my friend, is...
I'll tell my story
Of
about
course.
being a caregiver, looking to get into the industry, and as a small guy.
Oh, and that's Jay.
I'm Jay.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I work for a nonprofit, Our Cannabis. Most of what we do at this point is working on local lobbying and helping some of the state lobbying for things like the Commercial Craft Cannabis Act. I started out as a caregiver in 2011, so I've been a caregiver now for 8 years. It's been my only form, cannabis has been my only form of income for 6 years. Many of you, I don't know how many of you know the rule set behind being a caregiver, but it's a very, very small business that is necessitated by the requirements from the state. You can only have 5 patients. That gives you a maximum of 72 plants, and it gives you a maximum possession limit, and this is the ridiculous part, of 15 ounces. So 15 ounces as a producer is not very much. And I've spent the last 6 to 8 years going to dispensaries and both providing to my clients and then providing to dispensaries. That 15-ounce limit, for me, put a huge limitation on how much I can produce. You know, like for me, I had a completely continuous harvest. So for the last 8 years, I've been harvesting a plant pretty much every week to every 2 weeks. And for me, that was a plant is 12 ounces to a pound. So every time I harvested a plant, I needed to find a way to get that plant through the door, or I'm above my legal limits. And that's, for me, plant-wise, that was like 40 plants, about was what I was doing. I'm white. For me, those rules are a lot more flexible for anybody, I guess anybody here, anybody in the minority community. And when I started looking at the rules that were being set up at the state level for businesses, for people like me, the idea being that we created this industry and had run this industry for, almost a decade, like close to a decade, 3/4 of a decade. And the state rules that we're putting up included financial requirements, capitalization requirements, the smallest of which is $150,000. That started to look kind of impossible to someone like me. Someone who had managed their business on a very small scale. I was not legally allowed to hire people. I wasn't legally allowed to keep more product than I could carry and keep to get to the dispensaries. So I couldn't make enough money to come up with $150,000, let alone $300,000 or $500,000 for the capitalization requirements. Then you look at the price of applying. $16,000 is the minimum that $21,000 is the minimum you're going to pay in your first year for those applications. Between $6,000 for the state, $5,000 for your municipality in all likelihood, and the minimum regulatory assessment is up to $10,000. If you want a dispensary or a storefront, that minimum regulatory assessment is $66,000. That is, you have to pay that before you do any business. So for me, being a white guy, I was able to find $500,000. I was able to find the money to get, within a business plan. Because I'm nice, I'm handsome, I'm white, and I don't have a criminal record.
Okay.
Again, I'm white, so I don't have a criminal record. So basically for me, I was able to find investors that were willing to put in $300,000 to $500,000 to start one of these businesses, which to me, that was a ton of money. That was a ton of money. Then we started looking at real estate. The real estate issue is seriously depressing for anybody that wants to start one of these businesses as well. As I really started to look at this, in most places, originally I had done my business modeling for small businesses that would be $150,000 or a dispensary that was $500,000. When you really start looking at the real estate issues and the issues with the licensing process itself, where you can put in that application and put in that money, and then you've got to wait 6 months to a year or something to find out if you're going to actually do business, that brings the required amount of money closer to $1 million to $1.5 million if you start a dispensary.
Wow.
Just because of the problems of getting that license, the problems of real estate getting that storefront. I had, and you'll excuse me if I cry a little bit because this was extremely emotional for me. This is the last couple of years I've had a couple hardest years of my life. But having money, my investors were all people from like Stryker, people from large corporations that were good business people that were responsible. We had all middle-aged white guys. We had the board that America looks for the most part. And we went and looked for property, and we didn't have enough money to purchase, so we're trying to lease. It took us about 6 months to find out that FATCO, which is an aptly named underwriter for all title insurance companies, came up with a decision that marijuana is not cool. Marijuana, if you have, and this is technically true, if you look at all the titles all of the title insurance that comes out now, they pretty much uniformly have a clause about marijuana that says if any marijuana business is there or even was there historically, we are going to drop your title insurance. We're not going to fulfill any claims that you have on that. You're SOL. Sorry. So what that amounts to is when a small business people go to look for leases, you'll run into a place and someone might show some interest, and then within 6 weeks to 8 weeks of wasting your time on being interested, they'll realize that it's not quite worth it with the title insurance thing, so I'm not going to lease to you. This was for me, as a white person, with a white board, with set financials and a fantastic business plan, it was pretty much in my own community impossible for me to find a lease. There were plenty of places that we could go and we could ask, and to me it made me realize this is what people in the minority community have been dealing with forever. I mean, as long as they've been here. And for me to be a white person in marijuana and have those issues, what's it like for you guys? I mean, I've got everything in my favor. I'm a guy. I don't have a criminal record. I had corporate money. And it's still without, being able to spend $1 million to $3 million or something like that on a piece of